Monty Williams was fired last night, and I really kind of hated this move. It's unbelievable how nowadays a team that brings in a star in the middle of the season, he gets hurt with no depth and really only 9 games in the regular season to jail, loses to a better team in the second round of the playoffs in 6 games, and the fall guy is the coach. Now, the Suns brought in a new owner and Matt Ishbia, who bought the team for a record-breaking deal. And it's quite clear, Brandon, he just wants to completely reset here with a new head coach and maybe even a new front office. But to me, I look at this Phoenix team and I'm kind of just like, I feel bad for Devin Booker in some ways. They bring in Chris Paul, who helped them get to the finals, but now at 38 years old, he might have already played his last game as a Sun. It's been a huge success with CP, but his contract is partially guaranteed and they can't really trade him with a $30 million deal that is expiring. Your biggest draft pick in the franchise history, DeAndre Ayton, doesn't want to be there. Now, part of Monty Williams' downfall as a coach in Phoenix, at least, was that DA kind of just gave up on him, or at least Monty gave up on DA. And there was a rift as well between him and Jay Crowder. That's why Jay didn't play for the team after being told reportedly that he would be benched this year. But I don't know about you, man. I kind of asked the question, should Devin Booker at least consider wanting out of Phoenix given they don't have any first-round picks this year, and only the next 7 years, they've only got 3 total, and they can only be used in trades. Meanwhile, the team can't really draft with those first-round picks too.
No. Devin Booker should not ask out of Phoenix. Listen, man. This team was in the NBA Finals. Not even 2 years ago. They lost in 6 games. They had a record-breaking regular season in terms of wins. And yeah, they broke up the championship team, if you want to call it. And now they're on a new path. They went all in with Kevin Durant. They believe Devin Booker and Kevin Durant are enough to win them a championship. Now, the problems that arose were you added them a little bit too late. Obviously, the trade deadline, right, is in mid-February. You only have a month and a half, 2 months at most. And the worst thing could happen happened. Kevin Durant, unfortunately, bad luck, in a pregame warm-up, goes in for a layup, slips, and sprains his knee. And he's out for, like a month, something like that. And he's only able to play, I think, 8 games in total with, DeAndre and Devin Booker and Chris Paul. I think the stat was 8-0 with them. So they couldn't get the chemistry. They couldn't build continuity. And then the worst things happened in the playoffs too. They got a break. They got the Clippers. Obviously, Paul George wasn't there, but I firmly believe, and I went to that series and I said, you know what? I think at first I was like, the Suns are going to win this in 7, but then I talked myself into it and I got really hyped and really into it and said, you know what? No, the Clippers are taking this. Kawhi Leonard's back. He's reclaiming the throne. And then, another unfortunate thing happened in the playoffs this year, which has been, happening throughout the entire playoffs, which is a star player going down, getting injured. Kawhi goes down, and the Suns are able to win that in, what was it, 5, I think, 6 or 5, whatever it was. Russell Westbrook played out of his mind early. And I truly believe if Kawhi was there, and I think a lot of people see this hindsight, is if just Kawhi was there, I think the Clippers win that in either 6 or 7. Now, if Paul George and Kawhi were there, I think they can win it in 5 or 6 easily on the Suns. I think we all can look back and see that now. And then we move on to, the Nuggets, and Chris Paul goes down. He, per usual base. I hate to say that because I freaking love Chris Paul. He's a bona fide Hall of Famer. He's one of the greatest point guards of all time, top 5 in my opinion. I was really hoping and rooting for him to win a championship, and he goes down again, and it's because he's 37, 38 years old now. He came into the league, small, slight of frame, 6 feet, doing it for the little guys under 200 pounds. And that body just can't take a lot. I mean, you see LeBron James at 6'9", 260, 270. He's starting to break down now. Chris Paul, it's going to happen, and it just sucks. And then they basically went dolo with Book and KD. DeAndre Ayton was no show for a lot of the series. He gets injured. Then it's just KD and Book, and that's not enough. It's not enough. So no, should Devin Booker ask out? No. That's ridiculous. In my opinion, you went out and got KD. They believe KD and Booker are enough to win a championship. And I do believe that they should be enough to win a championship. Now they have to build around those two guys. They know what they need to do. There's been rumors that apparently they're looking for, they're looking for Chris Paul shooters. They're looking for DeAndre Ayton shooters. I think I heard the report was they're aggressively looking for DeAndre Ayton shooters out there. I think there'll be people out there for DeAndre Ayton. We talked about this. Are they going to get a massive haul? No. Nobody's saying that. They just need to get something. They need to get off his contract, and they need to get him off the team. It's like I said with Westbrook and the Lakers. Addition by subtraction. You get rid of a bad egg. Not saying Ayton's a bad egg. He just does not fit that scheme, that team.
He does. He's just soft.
Okay, if you can make that case. But yeah, get him off the team. And then with Chris Paul, you have a meeting with Chris Paul, and if you're able to discuss a pay cut, that'd be great. If you're not, you're probably going to have to move on. I don't know what you'll be able to get from him.
Nothing.
But yeah, it's. I still believe the Suns are going to be looked at in next year. They're going to be a top 4 or 5 team in the West. Because they're going to rebuild and they're going to get rotation players that actually fit this team and really exude the strengths of Devin Booker and Kevin Durant.
Well said.
And the new head coach. I forgot to mention that, but go ahead. Yeah.
Which I think one of the two possibilities is Mike Budenholzer, who was born in Arizona, or Nick Nurse, if NHBO really wants to pay the big bucks. Because, Brandon, they're going to have Monty Williams' $25 million contract on the payroll with this new coach.
There's also sorry to cut you off, but I saw a rumor that apparently they want to aggressively try and lure Ty Lue away from the Clippers.
Yeah, and I think what we've seen is in the NBA, you don't need 2 or 3 stars to win a championship. As we're seeing with the Nuggets, you have to build around your stars properly. And to credit James Jones, bringing in Chris Paul was a home run. But now that era has passed, we've seen the Suns' inability to support Devin Booker through the draft. And throughout his time with the Suns, his coaching has always been a dumpster fire. It wasn't until they hired Monty Williams in 2019, going into his 5th year, that he finally got a proven, established head coach. And Monty helped lead them to the finals in his 2nd year at the team. Back in the bubble, he helped exude the confidence into a young team that really needed the right type of leader that could develop talent. And if they don't get Nick Nurse, I don't think they're upgrading with Mike Budenholzer. I honestly think Mike Budenholzer, you can make the case as a worse head coach than Monty Williams. And what it really comes down to is, I don't know if they can really rebuild this team much. I've made DeAndre Ayton mock trades, right? And here are the best options the Suns can get for DA. If they want to take John Collins off the Hawks' hands, they can get him and Bogdanovich for DeAndre Ayton and Landry Shamet. Or they could trade DeAndre to the Mavericks, get Maxi Kleber, JaVale McGee, and Tim Hardaway Jr., Davis Bertans. Or, no, that's it. Like, that would be the big salary to take on DI for 2 decent role players.
Yeah, which I think is a massive win. I mean, you say John Collins and Bog, that is great compensation for DeAndre Ayton. I mean, I know these guys aren't going to be life changers, but those are 2 pretty good players. Mm-hmm. I know Collins has had his shortcomings, but Bogdanovich is a guy who can make his shots. He's not afraid to take the shot. So I'm not mad at that. The Mavericks one, maybe. I mean, if it comes down to it, but yeah, there's plenty of suitors out there. Even if it's a suitor for a crappy team like the Utah Jazz is just trying to, build for the future, or the Wizards obviously always are in contention to take a contract on. But you know what I mean? Like there's a sucker born every day, and I think they'll be able to get off Ayton. I know you're down on it. I mean, by down, what do you mean? Like, do you think they're going to finish with a worse record than they did this year?
I do. I think next year they're going to try to raise their ceiling, and they're not going to be this regular season juggernaut that they were in 2022. Yeah, in 2023 they'll have a better record, sure, but Devin Booker missed like 30 games this year, which is why they only won 45 games.
They won 45 games, so over or under 45 next year, John, for the Phoenix Suns.
I would go with the over. But generally, given the last 2 years, it's not going to be 55 to 64 wins.
No, and I don't think you need that. Like that's not obviously going to be the case because KD is probably going to play 60, 65 games maximum. Um, Book, if he's healthy, he'll play 60, 65 games. And yeah, I like I said, yeah, I think 45 over under. I would probably take the over 48 games, one next year because I do think that they're gonna. And if they get Nick Nurse is a big upgrade. No offense to Monty Williams, because he's a very likable guy, but Nick Nurse is a better head coach than Monty Williams. I think that's a good fit, and I would take that. I think the Suns would be massive winners to get Nick Nurse. You get off DeAndre and get a couple. Biombo is, I'm sorry, he's just not going to work. But get a guy who is going to be a physical defender, and rebound the ball, disrupt in the paint. If you're getting off Chris Paul, you get a young point guard, maybe get a veteran point guard to back him up, and you surround with shooters too, 3-and-D guys. Yeah.
Is Kevin Durant getting rightfully criticized given the last 2 years in the playoffs? He's far underperformed given his regular season standard.
Like, I'm not seeing the criticism. What criticism are we talking about? I'm not seeing that.
Maybe it's too much of the legacy talk, but should Kevin Durant be held more accountable for, in the last 2 years, him well underperforming what we expect from a top 5 player in the NBA? Or should we kind of give him a little bit of a pass considering he was coming off injuries?
So I'm not the biggest fan of Kevin Durant. I don't hate Kevin Durant. I don't have hate for really anybody except for Zaza Pachulia. He's one person that I do despise because he ruined Kawhi Leonard's career. But that's another story for another day. In terms of Kevin Durant, this year I give him a little bit of a pass. I mean, like I went into it, they weren't able to build continuity. He got injured, blah, 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 brand new team. Like 8 games together to really grow something. You're not going to be able to. That's very difficult. But Brooklyn, yeah, I don't give him a pass for that. Getting swept last year, like that happened. That you were the leader of that team, you got swept. Because all I heard the year before that, especially for John, we've had this debate, was KD by himself took the Bucks, the eventual champions, 7 games and would have won the game if not, if he wore a size 12 instead of a 13 shoe. Right? They would have won the game. So if you're able to do that and the year later you're not able to do that and you have Kyrie on the team now, that's a flag. So yeah, I mean, I've never been the highest on KD. I've always said KD is not going to be I know it's a bad thing to say, but he's never been a real number 1 on a championship team. I hate to say that. He might have 2 finals MVPs, people, but Steph Curry was the driver of that bus. I hate to use the Charles Barkley thing, but that is what it is. I truly do believe that was Steph Curry's team. In my case, I've always held this belief that KD needed the Warriors or quote unquote Steph Curry more than they needed him.
Part of his outro to Golden State was his torn Achilles in 2019. And look, since that injury, he's been hurt every single season consistently. 2021, he wasn't, but he ran out of gas at the end. Part of the question I asked before, should Devin Booker consider wanting out of Phoenix, really comes down to his number 2 being an injury-prone 35-year-old. Kevin Durant was MVP this season. I thought he was top 4 for me up until he got hurt. But if he's going to get hurt again next year, maybe multiple times, and you don't have any depth on the roster, what does Devin Booker do when he has a hamstring injury in January and they go 1 of 8 without him, the way they did this year, sliding down the standings completely like it was a water slide? And that happens every single year. It's going to continue happening with Kevin Durant-led teams.
Not only,
2022
what he had to go through off the court, he might
so
be the
now his
greatest
teams in the
winner in
playoffs
sports
have
history.
to face a tougher opponent in the first round like the Clippers. And you don't have the support around them because the Suns have very little draft resources and almost no cap space to use. The only notable exception that they have, they've got 2 of them actually, as a biannual for $4 million and a taxpayer mid-level exception for 5. That's barely going to be enough to retain Jacques Landale, your backup center. And then with a $5 million taxpayer, the best player against Kobe White, who's pretty good, but I even still don't know if they can get a guy that damn good for that little money. So at the end of the day for the Suns, this team is going to be reliant on 2-star players. And what it shows to us in today's day and age is, look, the NBA is making it out so that tax-paying teams with 2 or 3 stars on these max contracts aren't the grand all be all. As fans, we love it, but what wins championships is the best designed teams. And I feel like Monty Williams being fired by the Suns is just a symptom of the real issue. They failed to draft. They haven't paired Devin Booker alongside a number 2 that fits his timeline. And of course, he's had pretty good ones that don't. And now it's starting to kind of add up to them. Whereas a team like the Denver Nuggets that have drafted well and acquired role players that accentuate what their star does well can go to the finals this year. And that's the exact difference between these two franchises. So let's talk about a team that did build around their star properly.